Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to dive into a story about the unexpected consequences of just a simple act of kindness. You guys shared a piece with us, pasted text, the story of Emma Carter. On the surface, she's this kind of quiet psychology grad working at a diner, trying to, make ends meet. But things take a wild turn when a certain high-profile teenager walks in.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm already curious. Can you give us some context? Who is this teenager, and why was everyone at the diner so fixated on him?
The teenager's Barron Trump, son of a prominent political figure.
Yeah.
And his presence at an average diner was definitely out of the ordinary, and naturally people reacted.
Yeah, the source material really emphasizes how uncomfortable Barron seemed with all the attention.
Wow.
Emma notices this and helps him find a quieter spot. It's interesting how she just does it, no fanfare, just genuine empathy in action. What do you think this tells us about her?
Well, it speaks volumes about her character, right? She's not looking for recognition. She's acting purely on her instinct to help someone in distress. This seemingly small action demonstrates a deeper understanding of human behavior, something you'd expect from a psychology grad.
Right, you'd think that would be appreciated, but instead she gets fired. The manager's worried about the potential disruption to the business. Is this a typical reaction, or is there something more at play here?
It's certainly a complex situation. On one hand, you can understand the manager's fear, the concern about upsetting the regular flow of business. But on the other hand, it highlights how societal pressures, in this case, the pressure to maintain a normal environment, can sometimes override our personal values, like compassion.
It's almost as if the manager is prioritizing the perceived stability of the business over an individual act of kindness.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder how often we find ourselves in similar situations where societal expectations influence our choices, even if it means compromising our own values.
So, Emma loses her job, rent's due, she's feeling pretty hopeless, but then there's this unexpected twist. A mysterious phone call. It's someone representing a philanthropist who was impressed by her actions at the diner. This is where things start to feel like something out of a movie. Where does this lead?
This philanthropist, Mr. Franklin, clearly sees something special in Emma. He recognizes the inherent value in her empathy. He offers her a job with his organization, a job that ultimately changes her life completely.
It's fascinating how one seemingly insignificant action, helping someone find a quiet corner in a noisy diner, set off this whole chain reaction, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a perfect illustration of the ripple effect, how even small acts can have profound and unforeseen consequences. And in this case, it's not just Emma's life that changes. Her actions also have a lasting impact on Barron, which we see later in the story.
Let's talk about that impact. The source material mentions that Emma receives a letter from Barron towards the end. What exactly did he say, and why do you think it was such a significant moment for both of them?
In the letter, Barron thanks Emma for treating him like a normal person, shielding him from the gawking and whispers that made him so uncomfortable. He explains how her simple act of kindness reminded him of the importance of basic decency, especially in a world that often feels judgmental and harsh.
It must have been incredibly validating for Emma to see that her actions had such a profound effect on him, especially after being fired for that same act of kindness.
Absolutely. It reinforces the idea that sometimes the true impact of our actions goes far beyond what we can immediately see. It also adds a layer of complexity to Barron's character.
Right. We often see public figures as one-dimensional, but this letter humanizes him, showing us that he's just a young man navigating a very public and often overwhelming world.
Exactly. And it challenges us to look beyond stereotypes and recognize the shared humanity that connects us all. We're all susceptible to feeling vulnerable or out of place, regardless of our background or social status.
It's a powerful reminder that we should approach every interaction with empathy and respect because we never know what someone else might be going through.
Well said. It brings us back to the heart of Emma's story, this idea that simple acts of compassion, those seemingly insignificant moments, can ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully realize.
And those ripples can lead to some pretty amazing outcomes. In Emma's case, she went from feeling lost and hopeless at the diner to finding a job that completely aligns with her values and passions. Let's delve into that a bit more. What specifically about this new job resonated so deeply with her?
Well, several factors contributed to her success and fulfillment in this new role. Firstly, the job itself aligned perfectly with her background in psychology and her desire to help others. Instead of simply serving food, she's now able to use her knowledge and empathy to make a real difference in people's lives.
It sounds like she was finally able to step out of that survival mode she was in at the diner and really pursue work that was truly meaningful to her.
Exactly. And the organization's focus on kindness and community support likely fostered a more positive and encouraging work environment, a stark contrast to the stressful and demanding atmosphere of the diner.
It's like going from a place where kindness was punished to a place where it's celebrated and encouraged, a complete 180.
Quite a shift indeed. And remember, Emma had been feeling lost and unfulfilled. This new position provided her with a sense of purpose, a feeling of belonging, and confirmation that her values were truly appreciated.
It's almost as if her firing from the diner was a blessing in disguise, leading her to a path she was always meant to be on.
It's a classic example of how sometimes even setbacks can open doors to unexpected opportunities. And it's crucial to note that Emma embraced this opportunity wholeheartedly. She didn't just show up for a paycheck, she poured her heart into the work, genuinely going above and beyond.
The source material describes her coordinating these after-school programs for underprivileged kids, and you can almost feel her passion for that project.
Precisely. It wasn't just a job, it was a chance to make a real impact, and that enthusiasm is evident in everything that he does.
And it's incredible how her story starts to inspire others. She begins to receive letters from people who have been touched by her actions, encouraging them to embrace kindness in their own lives.
That speaks to the power of a single act of kindness. Emma's story becomes a catalyst for positive change, demonstrating that even small gestures can have far-reaching consequences.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have the potential to make a difference, no matter how small our actions may seem. But but it's interesting to consider how Emma's story became so widely known. Do you think her firing played a role in that?
It's certainly possible. The initial injustice of the situation, being fired for an act of kindness, likely captured people's attention, making her subsequent success all the more heartwarming and inspiring.
So the contrast between her unfair dismissal and her ultimate triumph may have amplified the impact of her story.
Exactly. It reinforces the idea that good things can emerge from challenging experiences, and that standing up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult, can ultimately lead to positive outcomes.
It's a reminder that we often don't know what's around the corner, and sometimes what seems like a setback can actually be a turning point toward something far greater.
I completely agree. And it speaks to the resilience of the human spirit and our capacity to find meaning and purpose even in the face of adversity.
It's a theme that runs throughout Emma's story, wouldn't you say? From being unexpectedly fired to receiving an unexpected opportunity, there's this sense that she's constantly adapting and evolving.
Absolutely. And that adaptability, that willingness to embrace change and challenge is ultimately what allows her to thrive in her new environment. It's not just about being in the right place, it's also about having the right mindset and approach.
That's a great point. It's not just about the external circumstances, it's also about our internal response to those circumstances.
Exactly. And Emma's story beautifully illustrates the transformative power of choosing kindness, even when faced with adversity. It's a reminder that we all have the agency to shape our own narratives, to choose compassion and empathy, even when it's difficult.
That's a powerful message. But I'm also curious about the role of chance and circumstance in Emma's story. What if Mr. Franklin hadn't been at the diner that day? What if Emma hadn't chosen to help Barron?
That's a fascinating question. It makes you wonder how many other acts of kindness go unnoticed or fail to spark such a dramatic chain of events.
It really does. And it highlights the delicate interplay between our choices and the unpredictable nature of life. We can control our actions, but we can't always predict or orchestrate the outcomes.
Precisely. And it makes you appreciate the role of serendipity and the interconnectedness of our lives. We are all part of a larger web, and our actions, no matter how small, can have far-reaching consequences.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and it makes me think about all the potential Emmas out there, people who are quietly making a difference in their own ways without fanfare or recognition.
Absolutely. There are countless unsung heroes whose acts of kindness may never make headlines, but are no less valuable or impactful.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it? It reminds us that we shouldn't underestimate the power of everyday kindness, even if it seems small or insignificant. But, but I'm also curious about the attention Emma's story received. Do you think there were any downsides to her experience going viral?
That's an important question. While the widespread attention brought many positive outcomes, like inspiring others and amplifying the message of kindness, it also potentially put Emma in a challenging position.
How so?
Imagine the pressure of suddenly becoming a symbol of kindness for so many people. The expectations, the scrutiny, it could easily become overwhelming.
That makes sense. Going from being relatively invisible at the diner to having this spotlight on her, having strangers know her story and project their own ideas onto her, it must have been a huge adjustment.
Exactly. The source material even hints at this when it mentions that Emma started receiving letters and emails from people she didn't know. While some were undoubtedly supportive, it's likely others were critical, demanding she live up to an unrealistic standard or projecting their own beliefs onto her.
That makes sense. It's easy to forget that behind these viral stories are real people navigating complex emotions and challenges.
Precisely. It highlights the potential downside of having your personal story become public property. It's a trade-off many people who find themselves in the spotlight have to grapple with.
So even with all the positive outcomes, there were still complexities and challenges that Emma had to navigate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that life is rarely black and white. Even positive experiences can have their own nuances and potential downsides.
That's a really good point. It reminds us not to oversimplify these feel-good stories, but to acknowledge the multifaceted realities that exist behind them.
Exactly. And it's a testament to Emma's character that she was able to navigate these challenges with grace and continue to focus on her work, even as her story gained widespread attention.
It speaks to her resilience and her commitment to the values she embodies.
Absolutely. And it reinforces the idea that genuine kindness is not about seeking recognition or reward. It's about acting from a place of empathy and compassion, regardless of the circumstances.
And sometimes those actions can lead to unexpected opportunities and profound personal growth.
Precisely. Emma's story is a beautiful reminder that even in a world that can often feel cynical and divided, there is always room for kindness, and that even the smallest gestures can have a ripple effect that extends far beyond our immediate sphere of influence.
It's an inspiring message, one that encourages us to choose compassion and embrace the unexpected twists and turns that life throws our way.
Exactly. It's about finding meaning and purpose not just in our grand achievements, but also in those quiet moments of human connection and empathy.
And speaking of human connection, let's circle back to that letter Emma received from Barron. We talk about how significant it was for both of them, but I'm curious to dig a little deeper into why his words resonated so strongly with her.
Of course. Remember, Emma was fired for her act of kindness toward Barron. That experience likely left her feeling disillusioned and questioning the value of her actions.
It's like she was punished for doing the right thing.
Exactly. So receiving Barron's letter was incredibly validating. It affirmed that her actions had mattered, that they had a positive impact, even if it wasn't immediately apparent.
It's like a reminder that even when our efforts go unnoticed or unappreciated by some, they can still make a difference in the lives of others.
Precisely. And it speaks to the inherent power of human connection. Even a simple act of kindness can create a bond, a shared experience that transcends social barriers and leaves a lasting impression.
It's a beautiful thought, but it also raises an interesting question. Do you think Emma would have gotten this incredible opportunity if she hadn't helped Barron specifically? Would a regular customer have elicited the same response from Mr. Franklin?
That's a thought-provoking question. It does highlight the complexities of social dynamics and the role of privilege in shaping our experiences.
It makes you wonder if Barron's status amplified the impact of Emma's actions, drawing attention to her character in a way that might not have happened otherwise.
It's certainly worth considering. The fact that Barron was the son of a prominent figure may have made his experience at the diner more newsworthy, and therefore Emma's actions more visible.
So, in a way, the circumstances surrounding her act of kindness may have inadvertently contributed to the chain of events that followed.
It's a possibility, and it raises questions about how we perceive and value acts of kindness and whether our judgments are influenced by factors like social status or visibility.
It's a reminder that even seemingly straightforward acts of kindness can be interwoven with complex social dynamics, and that the consequences of our actions can be far-reaching and unpredictable.
Exactly. And it challenges us to examine our own biases and to strive for a more equitable and compassionate world where acts of kindness are valued for their inherent worth, regardless of who benefits from them.
That's a powerful message. It encourages us to look beyond the surface and to recognize the interconnectedness of our actions and experiences.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that even in a world that can often feel divided and unequal, we all have the capacity to make a difference, one act of kindness at a time.
And those acts of kindness can ripple outwards, creating a more compassionate and just world for everyone.
Precisely. And that's a beautiful thought to carry with us as we continue to explore the complexities of human behavior and the transformative power of kindness.
I couldn't agree more. But before we dive into the next part of Emma's journey, let's take a quick pause to reflect on what we've uncovered so far.
That sounds like a great idea, a chance to gather our thoughts and consider the broader implications of Emma's story.
Exactly. And for you listening, this is a good time to pause and ponder some of the questions we've raised today. What resonates most with you about Emma's experience? What thoughts or insights are you carrying with you as we move forward?
It's been fascinating unpacking the layers of Emma's story, the unexpected consequences, the power dynamics, and the ripple effects of her actions.
Definitely. And it's made me think about those ripple effects in a new light. It's not just about the immediate impact, but also the way those actions can inspire others and spark a chain reaction of kindness.
Exactly. And Emma's story becomes a powerful example of this. Remember how she started receiving letters from people who were inspired by her actions? It highlights how her story transcended her individual experience and became a source of hope and encouragement for others.
It's like her act of kindness created a ripple that spread outwards, touching the lives of people she may never even meet.
Precisely. It speaks to the interconnectedness of our lives and the potential for even small gestures to have a far-reaching impact.
And that impact can be amplified when a story like Emma's goes viral. We talked about the potential downsides of that attention, but what about the positive aspects? How did that widespread recognition contribute to the ripple effect of her story?
It definitely played a crucial role. Think about it. Her story resonated with people all over the world, inspiring them to be more compassionate and to consider the impact of their own actions. It created a sense of collective hope and highlighted the idea that even in a world that often feels divided, we are all connected by our shared humanity.
That's a beautiful point. It's like her story became a catalyst for a larger conversation about kindness and empathy.
Exactly. It shifted the narrative from a focus on negativity and division to one of compassion and interconnectedness. And that's a powerful shift, especially in today's world.
So Emma's story went from being about a quiet act of kindness in a diner to a global conversation about the transformative power of empathy.
Precisely. And that transformation highlights another important aspect of the ripple effect, the power of storytelling. Emma's story resonated with people because it was relatable, it was authentic, and it offered a glimpse of hope in a world that often feels cynical and disillusioning.
It's like her story gave people permission to believe in the power of kindness again.
Exactly. And it reminded them that even seemingly small acts of compassion can have a profound impact, not just on the recipient, but also on the giver and on those who witness it.
It's a reminder that we all have the potential to be part of that ripple effect, to create positive change in the world through our own actions.
Absolutely. And it starts with those everyday moments of kindness, those small gestures of empathy and compassion that we often take for granted.
You know, as we're talking about this, it strikes me that Emma's story isn't just about kindness, it's also about courage. It took courage for her to act on her empathy, knowing that she might face negative consequences.
That's a great observation. It's easy to overlook that element of risk, especially when we're talking about kindness. But you're right, acting with compassion can sometimes require us to go against the grain, to challenge social norms, or even put ourselves in uncomfortable situations.
And in Emma's case, that act of courage ultimately led to a transformative experience. She lost her job, but she found her purpose.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message for all of us. Sometimes taking a stand for what we believe in, even if it means facing adversity, can lead us to unexpected opportunities and a deeper sense of fulfillment.
It's a reminder that courage and kindness often go hand in hand, and that by embracing both, we can create positive change not just in our own lives, but also in the world around us.
Beautifully said. And it speaks to the transformative power of aligning our actions with our values, even when it's difficult.
It's a theme that runs throughout Emma's story, wouldn't you say? From helping Barron in the diner to embracing her new role at Mr. Franklin's organization, there's this consistent thread of authenticity and integrity.
Absolutely. And that authenticity is what makes her story so compelling. It's not about following a script or trying to be someone she's not. It's about acting from a place of genuine empathy and compassion.
And that genuine compassion shines through in everything she does. Remember how the source material described her work with the after-school programs? You could almost feel her passion for that project.
Exactly. It wasn't just a job for her. It was an opportunity to make a tangible difference in the lives of children who needed support and encouragement.
And that passion undoubtedly fueled her success. It's clear that she wasn't just going through the motions, She was fully invested in the work. And that level of commitment undoubtedly had a ripple effect on the children she was serving.
It's a reminder that our work becomes more meaningful when we approach it with passion and purpose. When we're not just showing up for a paycheck, but are genuinely invested in the outcome, our efforts have a far greater impact.
And that impact can be contagious, inspiring others to find their own purpose and passion. It's like a chain reaction of positive energy and motivation.
I love that analogy. It's like a spark that ignites a flame, spreading warmth and light wherever it goes.
And that spark can start with something as simple as a kind act.
Exactly. It reminds us that we all have the power to be that spark, to initiate positive change through our actions and interactions.
But sometimes those actions can have unintended consequences. Earlier, we talked about the potential downsides of Emma's story going viral. I'm wondering if there were any unforeseen challenges or complexities that arose from her sudden fame.
That's a great question. While the positive aspects of widespread recognition are evident, there are always nuances and potential pitfalls when personal stories become public.
Can you give us some examples of those potential pitfalls?
Certainly. One challenge could be the pressure to maintain a certain image or to live up to the expectations of others. When you become a symbol of kindness, people may project their own ideals onto you, and it can be difficult to navigate those expectations while staying true to yourself.
It's like you're suddenly thrust into this role that you didn't necessarily choose, and there's this pressure to perform or to conform to a certain narrative.
Exactly. And that pressure can be immense, especially when you're dealing with the scrutiny of social media and the 24-hour news cycle. It's easy to lose sight of your own values and motivations amidst the noise and expectations.
It's like the line between your personal life and your public persona becomes blurred, and it can be challenging to maintain a sense of privacy and authenticity.
Precisely. And for someone like Emma, who seems to value genuineness and humility, navigating that newfound attention must have been a delicate balancing act.
It makes you wonder how she managed to stay grounded amidst all the attention and maintain her focus on the work that was truly important to her.
It's a testament to her character and her commitment to her values. It suggests that she had a strong sense of self and a clear understanding of her purpose, which helped her navigate the complexities of sudden fame.
It's a reminder that even when we find ourselves in unexpected circumstances, staying true to our values and focusing on our passions can be a powerful anchor.
Absolutely. And it's a message that resonates far beyond Emma's individual experience. It's a message that can guide us all as we navigate the ever-changing landscape of life, reminding us to stay grounded in our values and to approach challenges with resilience and grace.
And to remember that even when things feel overwhelming or chaotic, there's always a choice to be made, a choice to react with fear or with kindness, to retreat into ourselves or to extend a hand to others.
Beautifully said. And Emma's story is a testament to the transformative power of choosing kindness, even when faced with adversity. It's a story that inspires us to believe in the ripple effect of our actions and to embrace the unexpected twists and turns that life throws our way.
And speaking of unexpected twists, let's shift our focus to the financial aspect of Emma's journey. She went from struggling to make ends meet at the diner to working for a well-funded organization. What can we learn from her experience about the relationship between financial stability and pursuing meaningful work?
That's an intriguing angle. Often we hear narratives that pit financial security against pursuing one's passions as if the two are mutually exclusive, but Emma's story provides a different perspective.
It's like she found a way to bridge that gap, to find a career that was both fulfilling and financially sustainable.
Exactly. And it challenges the notion that we have to choose between following our hearts and paying the bills.
So how did she manage to achieve that balance? What factors contributed to her financial stability and her new role?
Well, first and foremost, Mr. Franklin's organization was clearly well-funded, which allowed them to offer competitive salaries and benefits to their employees.
That makes sense. Working for an organization with a strong financial foundation can create a sense of security and stability that allows employees to focus on their work without constantly worrying about making ends meet.
Exactly. And beyond the financial aspect, the organization's values and mission likely played a role in attracting and retaining talented individuals like Emma. When people feel a sense of purpose and alignment with their work, they're more likely to be engaged and productive, which contributes to the overall success of the organization.
So it's a symbiotic relationship. The organization benefits from having dedicated and talented employees, and the employees benefit from a supportive and fulfilling work environment.
Precisely. And that sense of mutual benefit creates a positive feedback loop, fostering growth and success for both the individuals and the organization as a whole.
It's a reminder that financial stability and meaningful work don't have to be at odds with each other.
Exactly. And Emma's story provides a compelling example of how finding that sweet spot can lead to profound personal and professional fulfillment.
But it's important to acknowledge that not everyone has access to the same opportunities. Not everyone has a Mr. Franklin who comes along and offers them a life-changing job.
That's a crucial point. Emma's story is unique, and it's important not to generalize her experience. Many people face systemic barriers and socioeconomic challenges that make it difficult to pursue their passions or achieve financial security.
So while her story is inspiring, it's also important to remember that it's just one story within a larger and more complex tapestry of human experiences.
Absolutely, and it highlights the need for systemic change and greater equity and access to opportunities. It's about creating a world where everyone has the chance to pursue their passions and achieve financial well-being, regardless of their background or circumstances.
It's a reminder that individual success stories are just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And while we can celebrate those successes, we must also acknowledge the systemic factors that contribute to inequality and work towards creating a more just and equitable world for all.
It's a powerful message that challenges us to look beyond individual narratives and consider the broader societal context.
Absolutely. And it's a message that aligns with the themes of empathy and compassion that run throughout Emma's story. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of our lives and working towards a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
It's a beautiful vision. But before we get too carried away with grand visions of societal transformation, let's circle back to the personal impact of Emma's journey.
Sounds like a good plan. It's always helpful to ground our discussions in the tangible experiences of individuals.
Exactly. So let's delve a little deeper into how Emma's life changed after she started working for Mr. Franklin's organization. What were some of the most significant shifts she experienced, both internally and externally?
Well, on an external level, the most obvious change was her financial stability. She went from struggling to pay rent to having a secure income and benefits.
That must have been a huge relief.
Absolutely. It freed her from the constant worry and stress that often accompanies financial instability, allowing her to focus on her work and her personal growth.
So it wasn't just about the money itself, it was about the freedom and peace of mind that came with financial security.
Exactly. And that newfound stability likely had a ripple effect on other areas of her life. For example, she may have been able to pursue hobbies or interests that she previously couldn't afford, or she may have felt more confident in her social interactions.
It's like her world expanded both literally and figuratively.
Precisely. And on an internal level, the source material suggests that she experienced a profound shift in her sense of purpose and self-worth.
Can you elaborate on that?
Of course. Remember how she was feeling lost and unfulfilled at the diner? Well, her new role provided her with a sense of meaning and direction. She was finally able to use her skills and passions to make a difference in the world.
It's like she found her calling.
Exactly. And that sense of purpose can be incredibly empowering. It can fuel our motivation, boost our confidence, and give us a sense of belonging and contribution.
So it's not just about the work itself, it's about the impact that work has on our sense of self.
Precisely. And in Emma's case, it seems that her work had a profoundly positive impact on her overall well-being.
It's a beautiful example of how aligning our actions with our values can lead to personal fulfillment and a deeper sense of purpose.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, it's possible to find meaning and create a life that is both fulfilling and impactful.
Speaking of impact, let's revisit that letter Emma received from Barron. We've touched on its significance, but I'd like to unpack the content a little further. Can you remind us what he said and why it resonated so deeply with Emma?
Of course. In the letter, Barron expressed his gratitude for Emma's simple act of kindness at the diner. He mentioned how her actions had a lasting impact on him, reminding him of the importance of basic decency and respect, especially in a world that often feels judgmental and harsh.
It's like her act of kindness planted a seed, and that seed continued to grow even after their brief encounter.
Exactly. And for Emma, receiving that letter must have been incredibly validating. It affirmed that her actions had mattered, that they had a positive ripple effect even though she was fired for that same act of kindness.
It's like a reminder that sometimes the true impact of our actions unfolds over time in ways we may never fully anticipate.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the power of human connection. Even a brief interaction can leave a lasting impression, shaping our perspectives and influencing our choices long after the moment has passed.
It's a beautiful thought, but it also raises a question. Do you think Emma would have received that letter? Would she have had that same impact on Barron if she hadn't approached him with such genuine empathy and respect?
That's a fascinating question. It highlights the importance of authenticity in our interactions. It's not just about what we do, but also about how we do it, but the intention and energy we bring to our interactions.
So it's not just about performing acts of kindness, it's about approaching those acts with genuine compassion and understanding.
Exactly. And that genuineness can be incredibly powerful. It can create a sense of connection and trust that transcends social barriers and leaves a lasting impact on both the giver and the receiver.
It's a reminder that even in a world that often feels transactional and superficial, human connection still matters, and authenticity can be a powerful force for positive change.
Beautifully said. And it brings us back to the heart of Emma's story. The idea that kindness, when rooted in empathy and genuine connection, can have a profound ripple effect, touching lives in unexpected and often transformative ways.
It's a message that resonates deeply, especially in a world that often feels divided and cynical. Emma's story offers a glimmer of hope, reminding us that even small acts of kindness can make a difference.
Absolutely. And it encourages us to look for those opportunities in our own lives, to choose compassion over indifference, and to believe in the power of human connection to create a more just and compassionate world.
But as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm left wondering about the ethical implications of Mr. Franklin's actions. He swooped in and offered Emma this incredible opportunity, but was his motivation purely altruistic, or were there other factors at play?
That's a thought-provoking question, and it's one that often arises when we examine acts of philanthropy. It's important to remember that even the most well-intentioned actions can be complex and multifaceted.
So how do we untangle those complexities? How do we assess the ethical implications of philanthropy without jumping to conclusions or making assumptions about someone's motives?
It's a delicate balance. On the one hand, we want to acknowledge and appreciate acts of generosity and the positive impact they can have. But on the other hand, it's crucial to examine the power dynamics at play and to ensure that philanthropic efforts are truly equitable and beneficial to all involved.
It's like we need to look beyond the surface and consider the potential unintended consequences, both positive and negative.
Exactly. And it's a conversation that needs to be ongoing, involving diverse perspectives and a willingness to challenge assumptions.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, let's keep those questions in mind. How do we balance gratitude with critical thinking? How do we celebrate acts of kindness while also acknowledging the complexities of human motivation and the potential for unintended consequences?
Those are excellent questions to ponder. And they lead us into a deeper exploration of the ethical landscape surrounding philanthropy and the role it plays in shaping our world.
It's a conversation that's both timely and relevant, especially as we witness the increasing influence of wealth and power in shaping social and political agendas.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation that requires nuance, empathy, and a willingness to engage in open and honest dialogue.
So for you listening, take a moment to reflect on these questions as we prepare to delve into the final chapter of Emma's story. What are your thoughts on the ethical considerations of Mr. Franklin's actions? And how do you think these questions relate to the broader themes of kindness, compassion, and the ripple effect that we've been exploring? We've been unpacking this fascinating story of Emma Carter exploring themes of kindness, societal pressures, and the ripple effects of our actions. Now, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the ethical considerations we were just discussing. It's not always easy to reconcile gratitude with a critical eye, especially when good things have come from a situation.
It's a valid point. We naturally want to celebrate the positive outcomes, like Emma finding her purpose and thriving in her new role. But it's also important to examine the underlying systems and power dynamics at play, even when the results seem positive.
So how do we approach this kind of ethical analysis without falling into cynicism or negativity? Is it possible to appreciate the good while still acknowledging the complexities?
It's definitely possible. It's about maintaining a balanced perspective. We can acknowledge the positive impact of Mr. Franklin's actions on Emma's life while also questioning the broader implications of his philanthropic approach.
Can you give us an example of what that kind of balanced analysis might look like?
Certainly. Let's take the job offer itself. It's fantastic that Mr. Franklin recognized Emma's empathy and offered her a position where she could flourish. But we can also ask, did his actions address the root causes of the societal pressures that led to her firing in the first place? Or did he simply provide an escape route for one individual without addressing the systemic issues at play?
That's a really interesting point. It's like he solved one problem without necessarily addressing the larger context.
Exactly. And that raises further questions about the role of philanthropy in addressing societal issues. Is it enough to provide individual solutions, or do we need to think more systemically about creating lasting change?
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, and it makes me think about Emma's story in a new light. She was empowered by Mr. Franklin's actions, but were others similarly empowered? Or did his intervention simply reinforce existing power structures?
It's something to ponder. And it underscores the importance of critical thinking, even when we're examining seemingly positive outcomes.
Mm.
True progress often requires us to look beyond the individual and consider the systemic implications.
It also makes me wonder about the narrative surrounding Emma's story. It's been portrayed as this feel-good tale of kindness rewarded, but what voices might be missing from that narrative? What perspectives haven't been heard?
That's an excellent question. The way a story is framed can significantly impact our understanding of it. In Emma's case, focusing solely on her individual journey might obscure the larger societal issues at play, such as the pressures on low-wage workers or the lack of support for acts of kindness in certain environments.
It's like the narrative, while inspiring, might also be inadvertently perpetuating a simplified version of reality.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to engage with diverse perspectives and to seek out voices that might challenge the dominant narrative.
It's a reminder that even the most heartwarming stories can be more complex than they initially appear.
Absolutely. And it's through that complexity, through engaging with the nuances and the different viewpoints that we can arrive at a more comprehensive and insightful understanding of the world around us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what key takeaways do you hope listeners will carry with them? What questions should they continue to ponder?
I hope listeners will walk away with an appreciation for the power of kindness, the unexpected ways it can ripple outward and create positive change. But I also hope they'll continue to engage in critical thinking about the systems and power structures that shape our world, even when those systems produce seemingly positive outcomes.
It's about recognizing that true progress often requires us to look beyond the individual and consider the collective, to celebrate acts of kindness while also working towards a more just and equitable society.
Beautifully put. And it's a reminder that even seemingly simple stories like Emma's can spark important conversations and inspire us to think more deeply about our values and the impact we want to have on the world.
It's been a fascinating journey unpacking all the layers of this story. And for you listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to continue exploring the complexities of kindness, empathy, and the ethical considerations that shape our actions. Thanks for joining us.